The power of silence. Why the most dangerous people move quietly. One day, you will disappear. Not physically, not dramatically, not in a way that makes headlines. You will disappear from people's awareness. No posts, no updates, no explanations. And at first, people will notice. They'll scroll, pause for a second, and think, didn't this person used to post more? Didn't they have big plans? Didn't they talk about changing their life? Then they'll keep scrolling, and eventually they'll forget. But while they're busy reacting to noise, consuming content, arguing opinions, and chasing validation, something else is happening. Quietly, invisibly, relentlessly. You are working. Not for attention, not for applause, not for approval. You are building something that does not require witnesses. And this is where real transformation begins. Silence is not weakness. It is a strategic phase. In modern culture, silence is misunderstood. If you stop posting, people assume you're lost. If you stop talking, they think you gave up. If you stop explaining, they believe you failed. But silence is not absence. Silence is compression. It's energy being stored instead of leaked. It's focus being sharpened instead of scattered. Its identity being rebuilt away from interference. Every serious transformation requires a phase where you step back, not to retreat, but to prepare. Think about anything powerful in nature. A storm gathers quietly. A predator waits patiently. A seed grows unseen beneath the soil. Nothing strong announces its growth while it's still fragile. Why talking too much kills progress? Here's a truth most people don't want to hear. The more you talk about your goals, the less likely you are to complete them. Not because sharing is evil, not because support is bad, but because your brain is wired in a dangerous way. When you tell people what you're going to do, your brain releases a small reward, as if progress has already been made. You feel productive without producing anything. You feel accomplished without doing the work. That feeling becomes a substitute for action. And over time, you become addicted to the feeling of being someone who's about to change, instead of becoming someone who actually has. That's how people stay stuck for years. They announce, they explain, they promise, and then they disappear. Not into growth, but into regret. The illusion of motivation versus the reality of discipline. Most people wait to feel ready. They wait for motivation. They wait for clarity. They wait for confidence. But motivation is emotional weather. It changes daily, sometimes hourly. Discipline is not emotional. Discipline is structural. It's what carries you forward when your emotions collapse. Discipline is getting up when your mind is begging you to stay down. Discipline is working when no one is watching. Discipline is repeating boring actions long after excitement has died. And this is where silence becomes essential, because discipline does not perform well on social media. It doesn't look impressive. It doesn't get likes. It looks like early mornings nobody sees workouts. Nobody applauds studying. When others are relaxing, saying no when yes would be easier. This kind of work cannot survive under constant observation. It needs privacy. It needs quiet. It needs separation. The loneliest phase is often the most important. There will be a time when you feel alone. Not dramatically alone. Not tragically alone. Just unsupported. No one asks how it's going. No one checks in. No one seems to care. And that's when many people quit. They interpret silence from others as a sign that what they're doing doesn't matter. But this phase is not punishment. It's training. This is the phase where you learn whether your commitment is internal or dependent. Because if you only work when encouraged, you don't have discipline. You have dependency. Real strength forms when you continue without witnesses, when the only person holding you accountable is you. Stop explaining yourself to people who don't live your life. One of the biggest drains on human energy is the need to explain why you're doing this, why you're not doing that, why your timeline is different, why your priorities changed. Here's the truth. People don't need to understand your path. They don't need to agree with it. And they are not entitled to an explanation. Every time you explain yourself, you give away authority over your choices. And worse, you invite opinions that create doubt. Doubt doesn't always come from failure. It often comes from listening to too many voices. Silence protects clarity. Results are the only language that matters. The world is full of people who talk about change. Very few become it. And the difference is simple. Talk wants recognition. Action wants completion. Results don't need defending. They don't need context. They don't need justification. They stand on their own. No one argues with results. No one debates outcomes. When you walk into a room with real progress behind you, the conversation changes. Not because you said anything, but because you didn't have to. Build in private, appear in public. The most respected people are rarely the loudest. They don't announce transitions. They don't narrate growth. They don't document pain. They disappear. And when they reappear, something is different. Their posture, their focus, their energy. That's not accidental. That's the compound effect of quiet consistency. Silence as self-respect. Silence is not avoidance. Silence is choosing depth over distraction. It's choosing long-term identity over short-term validation. It's saying, I don't need applause to continue. I don't need agreement to proceed. I don't need permission to become. That mindset changes everything. Start small, stay quiet, stay consistent. Transformation doesn't begin with a grand decision. It begins with a small, repeatable action. Something boring, something unimpressive, something sustainable. Then you repeat it, every day, without updates, without announcements, until it becomes part of who you are. One day, your silence will make sense to everyone. There will come a day when people ask, how did you do it? When did this happen? Why didn't you tell anyone? And you won't have a dramatic answer, because the truth is simple. You didn't wait. You didn't announce. You didn't perform. You showed up. You stayed consistent. You worked quietly, and the work spoke for you. Final reflection. You don't need to disappear forever. You only need to disappear long enough to build something real. Silence is not the end of your story. It's the chapter where everything finally starts to change.